Hi guys, welcome back. Okay, I'm reading the next chapter of the BFG, but I have a joke first. And this one is perfect. This one is perfect for Miss Charlotte, Miss Shauna, and Miss Amanda. Why are school cafeteria workers cruel? Because they batter fish, beat eggs, and whip cream. Okay, so you know that Miss Shauna, Miss Amanda, and Miss Charlotte are not cruel, but I thought that was a cute joke. Okay, so I'm reading the next chapter. It's called a Trogglehumper for the Fleshlumpeater. And this is when they got back from carrying the nightmare back to the BFG's place. So let's find out what happens. They is always having 50 winks before they go scrumping off to hunt human beings in the evening, the BFG said. He stopped for a few moments to let Sophie have a better look. Giants is only sleeping every now and then, he said. Not nearly as much as human beings. Human beings is crazy for sleeping. It is ever occurring to you that a human being who is 50 is spending about 20 years sleeping fast? I must admit that never occurred to me, Sophie said. You should allow it to occur to you, the BFG said. Imagine it, please. The human being who says he is 50 has been asleep for 20 years and is not even knowing where he is, not even doing anything, not even thinking. That's a funny thought, Sophie said. So I have to tell you, I've never even thought of that, but that's probably about true. We spend a lot of our time sleeping. Exactly, the BFG said. So what I is trying to explain to you is that a human being who says he is 50 is not 50. He is only 30. What about me? Sophie said. I'm 8. You is not 8 at all, the BFG said. Human being babies and little childers is spending half their time sleeping, so you is only 4. I'm 8, Sophie said. You may think you is 8, the BFG said, but you has only spent 4 years of your life with your little eyes open. You is only 4, and please stop higgling me. Titchy little snapper whippers like you should not be higgling around with an old sage and onions who is hundreds of years more than you. How much do giants sleep? Sophie asked. They is never wasting time snoozling, the BFG said. 2 or 3 hours is enough. When do you sleep? Sophie asked. Even less, the BFG answered. I is sleeping only once in a blue baboon. Sophie, peeping out from her pocket, examined the 9 sleeping giants. They looked even more grotesque now than when they were awake. Sprawled out across the yellow plain, they covered an area about the size of a football field. Most of them were lying on their backs with their enormous mouths wide open, and they were snoring like foghorns. The noise was awful. Suddenly, the BFG gave a jump in the air. By gumfrog, he cried. I is just having the most wopsy-whiffling idea. What? Sophie said. Wait, he cried. Hold your horse feathers. Keep your skirt on. Just you wait to see what I is going to bring about. He galloped off fast to his cave with Sophie hanging on tight to the rim of the pocket. He rolled back the stone. He entered the cave. He was very excited. He was moving quickly. You stay where you is in my pocket, Huggabee, he said. We is doing the lovely bit of buck swashing both together. He laid aside the dream-catching net, but hung on to the suitcase. He ran across to the other side of the cave and grabbed the long trumpet thing, the one he had been carrying when Sophie had first seen him in the village. With the suitcase in one hand and the trumpet in the other, he dashed out of the cave. What is he up to now? Sophie wondered. Peep your head up good, the BFG said. Then you will get a fine winkle of what is going on. When the BFG came near to the sleeping giants, he slowed his pace. He began moving softly. He crept on his toes towards the ugly brutes. They were still snoring loudly. They looked repulsive, filthy, diabolical. The BFG tiptoed around them. He went past the gizzard gulper, the blood bottler, the meat dripper, the child chewer. Then he stopped. He had reached the Fleshlumpeater. He pointed at him. Then he looked down at Sophie and gave her a big wink. He knelt on the ground and very quietly he opened the suitcase. He took out of it the glass jar containing the terrible, nightmarish Trogglehumper. At that point, Sophie guessed what was going to happen next. What do you think is going to happen? Let's see. Ouch, she thought. This could be rather dangerous. She crouched lower in the pocket so that only the top of her head and her eyes were showing. She wanted to be ready to duck out of sight very fast should anything go wrong. They were about 10 feet away from the Fleshlumpeater's face. The snoring, snorting noise he was making was disgusting. Every now and then, a big bubble of spit formed between his two lips, and then it would burst with a splash and cover his face with saliva. Taking infinite care, the BFG unscrewed the top of the glass jar and tipped the squiggling, squirming, faintly scarlet Trogglehumper into the wide end of his long trumpet. He put the other end of the trumpet to his lips. He aimed the instrument directly at the Fleshlumpeater's face. He took a deep breath, puffed out his cheeks, and then woof, blew. Sophie saw a flash of pale red go darting towards the giant's face. For a split second, it hovered above the face, then it was gone. But it had all happened so quickly, Sophie couldn't be sure. "We had better be skittling away quick to where it is safe," the BFG whispered. He trotted off for about 100 yards, then he stopped. He crouched low to the earth. "Now," he said, "we is waiting for the gun and flames to begin." They didn't have long to wait. The air was suddenly pierced by the most fearful roar Sophie had ever heard, and she saw the Fleshlumpeater's body, all 54 feet of it, rise up off the ground and fall back again with a thump. Then it began to wriggle and twist and bounce about in the most violent fashion. It was quite frightening to watch. "Ew!" roared the Fleshlumpeater. "Aye! Ow!" "He's still asleep," the BFG whispered. "The terrible Troggle-humping nightmare is beginning to hit him." "Serves him right," Sophie said. Okay, here's kind of a picture if you can see how the BFG put the bad dream in the Fleshlumpeater's, I guess, face so he could breathe it in. She could feel no sympathy for this great brute who ate children as though they were like sugar lumps. "Save us!" cried the Fleshlumpeater, thrashing about madly. "He's after me! He's getting me!" The thrashing of the limbs and the waving of the arms became more violent by the second. It was an awesome thing to watch, such a massive creature having such mighty convulsions. "It's Jack!" bellowed the Fleshlumpeater. "It's the grewful, grunchious Jack! Jack is after me! Jack is whack-crackling me! Jack is spike-sticking me! Jack is splash-plunking me! It is the terrible, fright-whipping Jack!" The Fleshlumpeater was writhing about over the ground like some colossal tortured snake. "Oh, spare me, Jack!" he yelled. "Don't hurt me, Jack!" "Who is this Jack he's on about?" Sophie whispered. "Jack is the only human being all giants is frightened of," the BFG told her. "They is all absolutely terrified of Jack. They is all hearing that Jack is a famous giant killer." "Save me!" cried the Fleshlumpeater. "Have mercy on this poor little giant! The beanstalk! He's coming at me with his terrible spice-sticking beanstalk! Take it away! I is begging you, Jack! I is praying you not touch me with your terrible spike-sticking beanstalk!" "Us giants," the BFG whispered, "is not knowing very much about this dreaded human being called Jack. We is only knowing that he is a famous giant killer and that he is owning something called a beanstalk. We is also knowing that the beanstalk is a fearsome thing and Jack is using it to kill giants." Sophie couldn't stop smiling. "What is you griggling at?" the BFG asked her, slightly netted. "I'll tell you later," Sophie said. So there's another picture of the BFG rolling around the ground. And the BFG. And you can see you can see in the background, if you're looking, you can see the Fleshlumpeater's body, so you know he's writhing around on the ground. The awful nightmare had now gripped the great brute to such an extent that he was tying his whole body into knots. Do not do it, Jack, he screeched. I was not eating you, Jack. I is never eating human beings. I swear I has never gobbled a single human being in all my wholesome life. Liar, said the BFG. Just then, one of the Fleshlumpeater's flailing fists caught the still fast asleep, meat-dripping giant smack in the mouth. At the same time, one of his furiously thrashing legs kicked the snoring, gizzard-gulping giant right in the gut. Both the injured giants woke up and leaped to their feet. He is swiping me right in the mouth, yelled the meat dripper. He is bung-swackling me smack in the guts, shouted the gizzard gulper. The two of them rushed at the Fleshlumpeater and began pounding him with their fists and feet. The wretched Fleshlumpeater woke up with a bang. And here is a picture. You can see kind of what's happening with the other giants. And you can see how his body is so out of control that he's hitting the other giants. So the two of them rushed at the Fleshlumpeater and began pounding him with their fists and feet. The wretched Fleshlumpeater woke up with a bang. He woke straight from one nightmare into another. He roared into battle, and in the bellowing, thumping rough and tumble that followed, one sleeping giant after another either got stepped on or kicked. Soon all 9 of them were on their feet, having the most almighty free-for-all. They punched and kicked and scratched and bit and butted each other as hard as they could. Blood flowed. Noses went crunch. Teeth fell. They're arguing over a bone. Teeth fell out like hailstones. The giants roared and screamed and cursed, and for many minutes the noise of battle rolled across the yellow plain. The BFG smiled a big wide smile of absolute pleasure. I is loving us when they is all having a good toughen rumble, he said. They'll kill each other, Sophie said. Never, the BFG answered. Those beasts is always bishing and walloping at one another. Soon it will be getting dusky, and they will be galloping off to fill their tummies. They're coarse and foul and filthy, Sophie said. I hate them. As the BFG headed back to the cave, he said quietly, We certainly was putting that nightmare to good use, though, wasn't we? Excellent use, Sophie said. Well done, you. Okay, good idea to give the nightmare to the Fleshlumpeater. All right, the next chapter is called Dreams.